Oh, this is great. Twilight Magi. I don't think I've answered a question from Twilight Magi before. Twilight Magi's brother has a question. The brother is a dungeon master and likes to make physical interactive puzzles for the games he runs. When creating a puzzle, he hands the players a physical object that they need to scrutinize for clues. Do you have any tips for resources you would recommend on how to guide an audience's attention when they look at a physical object up close? This is such a wonderful question because, yes, there's a rich and deep knowledge set about guiding the viewer's eyes. And it comes about through the history of painting. I can't remember all the details, but painters throughout history have gotten really good at guiding your eye around a painting. And we've learned this by doing eye tracking studies and noticing that with excellent painters, most viewers' eyes follow similar pathways as they look at the painting. They start with something that's a focal point, and then they move around. And there's all these ways to guide attention. I personally am always asking myself, well, when I'm thinking about guiding the audience's eye, and if I've got an object in front of me and I want to paint it and I want to guide their eye to some part of it, I start with my graphic design training. And in graphic design, you have some text you want to apply to a page. It has to communicate something. And so, it's a birthday party. Hey, come to my birthday party. This is where, this is when, bring some stuff, dress like this. So you lay that out here, and all the text is 8-point type, and you're like, can't see anything. Okay, so then you make everything bigger. Now it's all too monolithic. Okay, so now you make some things bigger and some smaller. Now you're working on guiding the eye. What is the most important thing in a birthday announcement? Birthday and the date. Second most important thing, address. Third, what can we expect when we get there? Fourth, well, how do we want to dress? Those are my priority lists. Yours may differ. But as I think through those, graphically, I want to service each of those things in turn. I may put them in that order, or I may change the font sizes to address that order. But ultimately, graphic design is this process of putting something down in text or picture, and then, like for me, it's always been this sort of the blurring of the eyes and the holding it as far away as you can to sort of see when it gels, when it communicates what you want. Is there extraneous stuff that's not bringing your attention to where it needs to go? So you can look up the history of Renaissance painting and eye tracking studies. There are like, I would always start with a focal point, a thing I want the audience to be staring at. Like if it's a device with a button, the big red button's got to be like right there in the middle. If it's all about pressing the button, my entire approach to this can be witnessed by looking at any of the latter half of Mythbuster episodes. My goal for Mythbusters camera shots for most of the run of the show was that the audience could immediately understand what was happening in a shot just by looking at the shot. So if it was like, hey, the experiment is this knife going to split this model in half when it drops? Well, this is my frame, right? I'm going to make sure I see the knife. I'm going to make sure I see where it's going. I'm going to put something protective down here. I'll have lines that delineate and box it in and help you understand. The use of colored tape and labels was really, really vital for me in telling those stories. And I'm doing that because it makes it easier for the audience to parse what's happening if I've set the frame up so it's left to right. This happens, this goes here, a line happens, right? You fill it all in, and then you have to think less about what's going on. I found out recently that the director George Miller does a very advanced version of this when he shoots. He considers with every shot setup where the center of the action is. And then when he cuts from that shot setup to another shot setup, he makes sure that the center of action is in the same place. Even if it's going to move in the next frame, where it is at the end of that cut, the next cut is going to have the action in the same place. And this is George Miller taking care of his audience by not asking them from one cut to the next to like, okay, where's the focus? Where's the focus? I don't know where the focus is. There are plenty of directors who do that. Miller has codified this into a system where they know for each shot where the action is supposed to be and where they want to cut to. That study, looking at the eye tracking studies, absolutely fascinating. And that will make you better at what you're attempting to do. Look, weathering also. I mean, I've looked at stuff as I'm weathering it and thought, I just can't quite see it. It's all sort of, actually, this is a beginning weatherer's problem. Beginning weatherers will do a basic pass and they'll be like, that looks so good, I don't want to mess with it. And then they'll just leave it there. I've totally been there. But when you do that, you end up with this sort of calico, overarching weathering pattern that's the same all around. When you want to see an object, you want to highlight the things that separate it out. You want to put highlights where there might be shadow and you can't see, you know, where something breaks apart, where it separates from its body. All right, I think I've talked enough. Obviously, this is one of my favorite subjects to talk about. Eye tracking studies and the history of Renaissance paintings. It's really, really informative. Okay. Alt Grendel says, how do you find out about the different sales when you purchase used tools, etc.? It's a constant grind. I think I open Craigslist every single weekend and search estate sale tools, garage sale tools, or tools for sale. A few weeks ago in San Francisco, some warehouse in Soma was getting rid of a giant room full of tools, and I found out about it a week late, and I'm still really sad about that. I just missed one weekend of looking at Craigslist. I'm kind of constantly trolling through lists, Craigslist, eBay, Etsy. I've started to look at BidSpotter, where like large industrial machine tools are often sold, and that when I finally pull the trigger on one of those, that will open up a whole new branch of tool acquisition. Look, Craigslist in the United States is kind of amazing. The rest of the world, it's hit and miss. But there's no shortcut to finding good deals on used tools. You've got to keep looking, and you've got to like never stopping. You've got to never stop looking. I am constantly always looking, and I mean, we're going to release a video in the next couple of weeks of a brand new tool that I brought into the shop, 1,200 pounds of goodness. And that's one I've been looking for 5.5 years until I found the deal I wanted. It's a commitment. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I wanted to briefly mention that you could become a Tested member. I know, everybody is competing for you to become a member of their thing. What I want to express to you is that the Tested membership has become such an important part of the Tested family. We get tremendous feedback from the Tested members, and they expand the stories that we can tell and the things that we have access to, and you can become a part of it right now by clicking on the link below. See you in the chat.